Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is International Master Benny Chang, and today I'm going to be doing another commentary, not live commentary, but a game analysis, kind of like an entry level type of thing again. So this is going to be another French with tenor, and this time he's going to be playing whites against MoreOrLess. And this is a normal French so far. So far, so good. C5, C3, okay. So far, so good. I'm not going to say anything about this because this is the advanced variation, so everything's fine. And now we start to see a little bit of problem. Plays 92, which just pretty much loses a pawn straight up. So that's not the best move he can go for. He has to go for b4 in these lines. And usually what happens after b4 is take 6, knight 5, bishop b2, knight 5, something like this. Get this guy here. And usually, this kind of variation is okay for black. Because I think one idea he can also go is bishop d7. So let's say knight d2, bishop d2, and let's say bishop d3 or c8. I don't know this line very well, but I know it to some extent, and I know that it's okay for black for most of the time. Maybe he shouldn't move his knight to a5 right away. The reason this works is because if he takes an a5, queen takes b2. But instead of that, maybe he can just put bishop d7 right away. So that's bishop d3, he can always just take on d4. So he's pretty much forcing him to have to play g4. Forcing his knight back to h6, or playing bishop e2. And of course, this kind of position is fairly okay for black because he's able to complete his development. One idea that he can go for is just going for f6, something like this. And black seems to do well because I think this pawn's going to drop. So, this is just one idea that he can go for. Maybe he doesn't have to take it. Maybe he can just go like knight c3, or I don't know, like bishop d3 here instead. Something like this. For example, you can't take this way because of take, and bishop g6 check. So this just wins the queen. So this is just like one idea that black can go for, and something that white really has to watch out for is playing b4. He can't really do anything else other than b4. Besides that, he can also play c4 for black. And this is a line that I think I covered a bit last time, but not completely because I don't really know this too well, and I don't really feel comfortable going over another game rather than just this game. So I'm just going over this game. So right now he can pretty much just win the pawn d4, but black chooses not to win the pawn. So okay, maybe he didn't really expect that to happen because I think he moved very fast here. He probably didn't really think he can take on d4. But yeah, so after he plays on b3, plays a5. This is actually a good move. Let's just imagine for a second that d4 wasn't paying. Then a5 is a good move because you force white to play a4, which is good because you want him to weaken his queen side. But what you gotta do actually is you want to be able to take on d4. So this is the idea actually. You want to take on d4 first. So this mover is kind of a bit tricky because here you can actually just take on c5 and kind of just transpose into that position. But you want to actually take this guy first. And now after pawn takes d4, obviously you can't do it. Knight takes. Knight takes is okay, but you don't have to do it this way. This takes, and a5 black is not doing fantastic because he could have taken d4, but at least he's doing okay in these type of lines. But yeah, usually I would expect players to just say c takes d4, and after a5 here, then he gets his hold on b4. This is really the key idea for black, getting a hold on b4 for his pieces to go to. So he didn't do that. He went bishop d7 instead. And here, I think this is a good move. Take on c5. Take away the bishop here and just keeping the control at e5. I think white is doing pretty well here. Castle, a7. So far, the play has been very, very good so far. If we just ignore the fact that d4 is hanging, the play has been very good so far. And there's really not much I can say at this moment. But g4 is definitely a move that's pretty decent because now he forces knight h6. So maybe instead of that, maybe black should just play knight e7 back and then g6. Try to push on e5, maybe play f6 at some point. Try to get some kind of a pawn center going. Because black really needs to play f6 in these lines. If you cannot take on e5, if you can't discard e5, you gotta take that way by playing something like f6 and pawn takes, pawn takes. Obviously, the knight cannot be here, otherwise, let's say if he takes this way, you're forced to take rook takes, and this is not what you want to do, because in this case, if you rook takes, white does have a little bit of initiative by playing bishop g5, And something like rook f7 is probably fine. Rook g6 is probably not the best move because of g4. There's some issues like this, and obviously this bishop's hanging, but we can always play h4, and white has some initiative here with the knight. It's kind of going to be hard to get out, so this is a problem. But yeah, this is just not something that you want to really see as black on the black side, just because white can always control e5, playing rook e1, and or like queen e2 here, just making sure this rook is guarding f2, just in case. So I mean, this is a pretty balanced game, but I think white should have a slight advantage here. Not too sure, but yeah, black really has to open up the f file to get something going. After g4 and h6, white plays bishop h6, h6, good move. Pretty much take away that pawn. And here I thought that maybe you can just go queen d2 here, king g7, and I mean queen f4 is probably a good idea. So here, queen f4. But maybe here black might just play f6. And again, we see f6 as being very, very strong in these type of games. So it's very important that white does not let him do that. So maybe he can play g5 instead. But even here, it's not quite so clear because well, black can always go king h8 here. And this is a key idea. If you go king h8, takes rook g8 check, you now instead of something happening, instead of white getting the control of the g file and main black's king, I think black has some real good moves here. So with d4, say pawn takes and bishop c6, and this is going to be mate if he doesn't do anything about it. So if queen e3, you can always go queen takes d4, and this wins again because of the this kind of diagonal. So this is something that black could have thought about, went for if white went for queen e2 immediately. So maybe that may be why, but I mean that's just an idea that black has in these type of lines. So that's why his 94 is definitely, I mean, it's not bad. You control the square, and no, it's not too bad a move. But yeah, so after queen e2, king g7. So I'm not sure why he went to king h8 and then king g7. If he wanted to go for this, he should have gone for rook g8 immediately. This way he gets his g4 pawn. If he plays h3, he can always play h5. I mean, this is pretty decent for black, because there's really not much that white can do here. For example, if you play queen h6, checks, queen here, takes, you always have knight g8. And I mean, black's doing fine this type of line, just because his pawn's very, very weak. And additionally, he probably wants to play queen 7 here, forcing queen trades, and then black should be fine. But fortunately for black, he decides to play king g7, so I don't think that's a good move here. Yes, king h1, king of the diagonal, g6, queen e3. Okay, so he wants to play f4, which he eventually does. Queen e3, queen g5, f4, queen h4, queen f3. So this is kind of an inaccuracy, I mean, with both sides, but I mean, I'm going to give some credit for actually playing this well so far. But here I think white definitely has like a big advantage here, and he just has to convert. In the case, he has to play like rook e1 and f5. Like that's pretty much it. Pretty much this queen can also be trapped in some lines. So that's exactly what he does. Bishop takes a4. Maybe he should play like maybe he should have moved this rook to e1 instead of f5. But I mean, this seems to be a good pawn sack. I mean, I would definitely have done this too, thought about at least, but this would definitely be a good idea. Here I'm not sure why you did knight g6. I thought you just playing knight g6 back. This seems like a good idea here. You want to be able to stop white from mating. So I mean that was my idea. That definitely would be something that I looked at. But he decides to play knight c6 instead. So after bishop b1, idea is queen d3. Just takes it. And here I think that there's some issues with this. For example, I think queen e3 is probably winning. Knight f5, pawn takes here, pawn takes here. I mean, this has to be winning here, right? I'm not going to look at Houdini, but I think that this has to be winning. Because he's pretty much just threatening mate the whole time. Unless, of course, he can play bishop c2. See, that's a key move. And this is very lucky for black that he has his resource. I'm not sure why would play queen e3 anyway, because pawn takes d4 is such a natural move. But if he did play queen e3, bishop c2 would be the only move to save him. Otherwise, the other line would just be bad. So pawn takes is forced, rook c8, and now again queen e3, and it seems like there's nothing to do about that. Unfortunately, he has to play rook g8 here, or bishop b5. to stop this. And then you can play rook g8. He had to stop the square from happening, but because he didn't, that did not go so well. But yeah, he has to go bishop b5, guarding d3 square, gain tempo on his rook, and then go rook g8. And something like rook g1. And black would be doing pretty well here, actually, because he's not getting made. And that's really the key thing here. Black's not getting made. I mean, his pieces are very active. He can just play rook g5, double up, play for h5. And as long as his bishop's here, he will be fine for the most part. It's obviously still a bit tricky because you want to avoid certain things like this. You're going to be kind of losing the exchange by force. So I mean, it's still very tricky, but black could have some options like maybe h5 immediately, just going for this, hoping that he can get some more time out of this. But yeah, if you can do this, black should be doing okay here. But unfortunately, I think he missed his move, so he just went for c8. Thinking he's probably going to play bishop c2 now, but unfortunately for him, queen e3 wins automatically, and he just wins a rook. So he just up a rook now. And I think the game is over at this point. Yeah, so this was when black resigned. But I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty decent game. They made some mistakes, obviously, but they did play very well for the most part, and it was very instructional, I would say. Just going over the games and seeing where they made mistakes. But yeah, so overall, it's not too bad. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.